Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Today is Monday, August 10th, 2020. Thanks for tuning in this afternoon. Got a little bit to talk about, a couple things, but first let's get started with our space weather stats. Right now we're looking at our solar wind speeds coming in at 326.2 with a density of about 1.7. Zero, well, we have sunspots, so we can't say we don't have any. AR 2770 is still hanging around. It is in the decay mode, so it might be possible we have a day without a sunspot, but I'll show you in a minute why I don't think that will be the case. Taking a look at 2020, we've had 153 days without sunspots, and I made the mention the other day, I wouldn't be shocked if we didn't see more than 30 spotless days from this point moving forward, and I'll show you why here in a minute. Our cosmic radiation at 10.1%, which is barely up from the last time we broadcasted. TCI, the Thermosphere Climate Index, is coming up at 2.76, and we had gotten as low as 2.53 and further than that actually, but when you get solar wind speeds, it does kind of increase the TCI temperatures by a little bit when you have solar wind pelting the magnetic field the way it does, lighting up the ionosphere. So we've had a couple of days where we saw 600 kilometer per second solar wind speeds, and that is why we were looking at TCI that went on the rise a little bit. KP indices are coming in at a 1 with the 24-hour max also at a 1. And also want to say that we have, as far as sunspot grouping, it is sunspot number 13 for AR 2770. Let's go ahead and go to the grandsolarminimum.com and check out our space weather section real quick. Take a look at a few additional statistics from our star. And you can see the KP indices has been relatively quiet lately. The last several days, we're not even getting past 1 here as of late. The 24-hour max is at a 1. Now, taking a look at what is coming around the bend, that is the eastern limb right there. We see 2 spots, one in the northern 30 degree and one in the southern 30 degree. Those are both indications of the position of those sunspots that we are looking at solar cycle 25 sunspots. Also, we do have a minor coronal hole that is formed off of the eastern limb and is moving towards Earth. So let's take a look. This is AR 2770. It is decaying. These are the previous sunspots that have decayed. There is our coronal hole, our small one that would impact Earth's magnetic field if it makes it all the way to Earth facing, which is right here at the 0. So quite a few days away before we see that Earth facing coronal hole. But this is the active region that we're looking at, and also this one here. I would have to say that we probably have a better chance of possibly seeing sunspot formation AR 2771 right here. It is possible. If this does not form, if this does not have the properties of a sunspot, we could be actually looking at some spotless days for a little bit, very briefly. But there are indications that solar cycle 25 is trying to get its act together and trying to, you know, get going from the bottom here, basically. So, all right, let's take a look. I have a few articles today to go over once again. And first we'll start in New South Wales, hit by strong winds and worst flood in 29 years, Australia. Torrential rain and strong winds lashed at New South Wales south coast over the weekend, causing the worst flooding in the area for 29 years. High waves killed a 44-year-old surfer in Sydney's Collaroy. At least 1,600 emergency calls had also been made during the day, while 2,000 customers were left without power. Considering what's been going over here in the States, 2,000 sounds like a drop in the bucket. Says here that winds reached around 58 miles per hour at Norah Head on the central coast. Waves peaked over 16 feet in Sydney, and much of the coastline was under a warning for hazardous surf and severe weather. Amid the wild weather, a 44-year-old surfist was pulled unconscious out of the beach waters. The victim later died at the hospital. Says here in Wombarrow, residents have been on high alert after weeks of extreme weather caused major coastal erosion, posing threats to nearby homes. Across New South Wales, the State of Emergency Service received 1,600 calls for help due to downed trees, flooded roads, and homes and damaged properties. About 400 of those were in Sydney and the Blue Mountains. So Australia has been in the news a lot lately. Cold records. Now here we have severe weather to talk about. High winds, definitely high waves off the coast here as well. 16 feet, 60-mile-per-hour winds. And yesterday, the big headline for yesterday was the shallow 5.1 earthquake that hit in Sparta, North Carolina. Now, also, not just being the strongest earthquake since 1916, but we had a 2.2 in the Vermont and New Hampshire region, and also had another earthquake in the Dallas area as well. Now, let's read here real quick. Very shallow earthquake registered by the USGS as a 5.1 hit Sparta, North Carolina at 12:07 UTC on August 9th, 2020. It did cause some widespread damage. The agency is reporting the depth of 2.3 miles. This is the strongest earthquake to hit North Carolina since 1916. Not a lot of people have felt the very strong shaking. About 5,000 felt strong, and 20,000 people felt moderate shaking from this earthquake. And 500,000 people also felt the light effects from this. Now, there were people in Tennessee, South Carolina, Virginia, and West Virginia who have claimed to have felt this 5.1. And this is a strong earthquake in this region. And I know if some of you out there are already reading it or have read it, John Casey's book, Upheaval. And he talks about the New Madrid fault line. And I know this is one of those things where, this is along the North American Craton, but a lot of people are thinking about the New Madrid fault line when we get these kinds of earthquakes on this part of the country. It does not happen as much. I know people follow Dutch Sense for earthquake information, which he does a pretty good job. And then you have, there's another guy I like to watch as well, Earthquake Jake. But anyway, we will keep our eyes on seismic activity as far as earthquakes go here in the United States. Also, we had a 4.9 out in California that was mysteriously dropped to a 4.0 within seconds. So the significance of 4.9 dropping down to a 4, that's quite a bit of a shaving of a point there. Basically, that's intense power that's being taken off that magnitude. So lots of stuff happening, rocking and rolling here. Powerful eruption at Mount Sinabung, ash up to 32,000 feet. Now, this eruption took place around 3:16 UTC on August 10th, ejecting ash up to 32,000 feet above sea level and forcing authorities to evacuate nearby communities. The aviation code was briefly raised to red. The alert level remains at 3 as of now. And villagers and tourists are advised to stay at least 3.1 miles away from the crater. The volcano is known for its violent pyroclastic lava flows. Let's see if we can get away with playing this. To me, and I'm not minimizing, you would think that the people around here are used to this kind of stuff here, but that is quite an impressive ash plume, folks. And we just talked about this on Saturday, how we reported that Sinabung had a 15,000-foot ash plume that happened over the weekend, and then another eruption of 11,000 feet. Now we're seeing this 32,000 foot ash plume that's being ejected from this volcano. Is this volcano done? I don't think so. And hopefully we don't see any major damage to these folks that live nearby. But I'd assume that they are probably on high alert right now. And I mean, you could just look at the terrain here, folks. It's not like they just hop in their cars and drive down to Aunt Sharon's house for the weekend here. So tensions are high for sure. We also had the Popo. Mexico had some volcanoes popping off last week. So we're starting to see some rare seismic activity across the country. We're seeing the common volcanoes that usually we see go off big time. They're starting to pop off again. Sinabung, this is some pretty good action from them for a while. And then just about a day or two ago, study suggests that volcanic eruptions caused global cooling 13,000 years ago, not meteors. Some scientists believe that an extraterrestrial impact, such as a meteor collision, caused global cooling around 13,000 years ago. However, a new study presents evidence left in layers of sediment showing that the event was most likely caused by volcanic eruptions. In addition to the study that showed that geochemical signature associated with the cooling event is not unique, but occurred 4 times between 9,000 and 15,000 years ago. 4 times between 9,000 and 15,000 years ago. That's a 6-year period. So technically that's 3 super grand solar minimums. And we had 4 cooling events with these potential volcanic eruptions. But the team began researching in Hall's Cave in central Texas around 2017 and found within its R layers of sediment, the first identified by Thomas Stafford of the Stafford Research Laboratories in Colorado, that dated the time of impact over 20,000 years ago. One big question was, did an extraterrestrial impact occur near the end of the last ice age about 13,000 years ago, as ice sheets covering Canada were melting and caused an abrupt cooling that thrust the northern hemisphere back into the ice age for an extra 1,200 years. That's the question they're asking and raising. Some researchers believe that the event, which cooled the planet by about 3 degrees Celsius, was triggered by extraterrestrial impact, like meteor collision. However, Waters and his team found that the evidence left in layers of sediment in the cave were most probably from volcanic eruptions. It's an exceptional record that offers a unique opportunity for cooperation to investigate a number of important research questions. The cooling event also likely contributed to the extinction of large mammals, such as mammoths, horses, and camels that once roamed North America. Can you imagine a camel roaming North America? This work shows that the geochemical signature associated with the cooling event is not unique, but occurred 4 times, like I already said here earlier. Anyway, the abstract is down here as well. The link to the paper is here. And I felt like, with Mount Sinabung busted off and the earthquakes and everything that we study here at Grand Solar Minimum ties in together with this little study here talking about global cooling. And just yesterday, Sunday, I had a little talk with our community about what causes ice ages and what causes cooling events. There's a lot of cycles out there, okay? We've got the Milankovitch cycle, which is 100,000 years. That's a very long cycle, and it takes a very long time to get going, all right? But we have that. Then we have the theory of now what is starting to get a lot of noise is volcanic eruptions causing cooling. We talked about Tambora back in 1815, an eruption of 122,000 foot ash plume. 122,000. You guys know 55,000 foot ash plumes can affect the climate regionally. Anything over 100,000 is considered bigger trouble. And certainly in 1816, I should say, in the northeast of the United States, they went with what was called the year without a summer. Yeah. So, here at the Grand Solar Minimum channel, we've always talked about volcanic eruptions causing cooling, and just a little bit more teeth to that theory with this paper here. And when you see these eruptions that are happening right now, and I mentioned John Casey's book, Upheaval, if you guys are reading that, I strongly suggest going out and getting that. Maybe Mari can drop a link for the book somewhere in there in the chat. But that is a very important book, guys, because a lot of the things that John Casey's talking about in the book is starting to happen right now. So it's not just, and what's even more amazing is that he wrote this book a few years back. So when you're seeing these predictions that are actually coming to fruition, it's like, oh, wow, this is that aha moment stuff. So I highly recommend Upheaval by John L. Casey. It's a great book. I'm halfway through it. And that book will answer a lot of your questions about what to expect in the next Grand Solar Minimum. When it comes to climate, when it comes to volcanoes and earthquakes, everything. John has it covered. So, but I thought I'd bring this up just because, you know, a lot of talk of volcanoes and earthquakes here lately, some stronger ones. Earthquake-wise, we are starting to see an uptick in volcanic eruptions. Definitely Sinabung's 32,000-foot ash plume eruption is one of the strongest that has been recorded here in a little while. So, thought I'd bring that up. And just kind of skimming through articles on what's up with that. So this one's kind of funny, and it's the thumbnail for the story. Actually, I'm gonna back out of this a little bit and show you guys how you the polar bear is dancing on the sun. I love it. I don't know why, but it says polar bears defy science, refusing to die. What's this all about? Well, many West Hudson Bay polar bears are still offshore as of August 7th, despite the low levels of ice. They've got 6 out of the 11 female polar bears that they were tracking were collared and are reportedly on the ice still, right? How is that? Because they're talking about ice concentration below 50%. And that's sort of the AGW's, that's their coat hanger, basically. They hang everything on that. Oh, it's 50% below concentration. The polar bears are going to go inland. They're going to die. And they're not doing that. In fact, this article here, and a very well written article, I might add, very good detailed graphics and points to bring up here. But the point of this is the AGW likes to say once the ice concentration gets below a certain percentage, we start seeing polar bears die off, and that is not happening. In fact, West Hudson Bay has quite a bit of ice still present, and they are also suggesting that the reason why that we can't identify some of this thinner ice that we are recording right now on satellite. In other words, it's not showing up on satellite imagery. So when you see the melt from satellite, there is ice underneath these little ice ponds, these little melt ponds. And that's pretty much, and you can see that here actually in this picture right here, the polar bear. This is what we're talking about. And they're saying in this article that ice is underneath of this, what looks to be melted water. And it could be thicker than what scientists believe. And in fact, it is possible that satellite is not properly measuring the thickness of ice here. So, yeah, more ice than we thought. And if polar bears are still out on the ice at August 7th, guys, think about it. We're 30 days away before we start seeing things really start to cool down. But I love the artwork. I guess I'm kind of a geek. I thought this was funny to me. This just made me laugh. The polar bears dancing on the sun. Why won't they die? No matter what AGW says about polar bear population, people like us will always show you that article that shows that the polar bear population is thriving by 400%. It's the polar bear population is bigger than it's ever been before. It hasn't gone down. It continues to grow. But AGW will tell you that there's no ice for the polar bears to live on, so they go inland, and that's where they die. They can't survive on land, I guess. I don't know. Polar bears. But anyway, just thought I'd mention a little polar bear action. We haven't talked about polar bears in a while, so good article. What's up with that? Polar bears defy science by refusing to die. Please read that. Very important information. It might even help you in the next little debate you have at the water cooler with your fellow coworker that tells you, I drive an electric car because I care about the climate. And then you can start talking to him about the ice up in the Arctic and the polar bears that are not dying, that are supposed to be dying. But anyway, what's going on, Jesse? Good to see you, my friend. Hopefully you are safe from all of that severe weather that was happening out in the Midwest today. In fact, let's go ahead and take a look at the radar here. Earlier, we were watching these storms approaching Chicago, and you know, it's not just the Midwest.
Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois.
Hold on a second.
For some dangerous thunderstorms.
Yeah, we know. Let's check out the current map right now on the radar. We still have a lot of watch boxes, but Chicago is going through the worst of it. Actually, that particular storm is now leaving the Chicago metro area, and we had some pretty high winds going on here. Parts of Iowa, several cities, one at an unofficial reading of 112 miles per hour. That's right, a wind gust, folks. No tornado. That was just a wind gust. And where does that rank with tornado winds? That right there is a strong EF2 tornado, believe it or not. So, but watch boxes are still up right now. If you live in Indiana, central Indiana, in the northern part of central Indiana, take cover, as I am trying to find out some of these cities here. This thing is just too hard to read with all the boxes. I thought I set it lower. My apologies, folks. Anyway, north central Indiana, be ready. A line of storms is heading your way. And then Toledo, Findlay, Lima, Wapakoneta, Salina, Sydney, Piqua, Troy, Ohio. You guys, also in the southwest region, Dayton, Ohio. This will be here in a couple hours. But right now we are dealing with severe winds, high winds, damaging winds, hail, flooding. There were rain rates earlier when this thing kicked off, this derecho, of 2 to 3 inches an hour. Yeah. I was trying to explain to my son when he heard that. I said that's usually the amount of rain that people get in a month. We also are dealing with some pretty nasty storms out here in upstate New York and also in the Hudson Valley area. Central New York dealing with some scattered severe storms as well. And then some pop-up here across D.C. area, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina. We get a little more action as we get to the southeast part of the coast. More heavy rain and storms across Georgia, just south of Atlanta. So lots of weather today. Very active weather today. Severe thunderstorms. No tornado reports as of yet. And I might have to refresh all of that. But we've got stormy weather in Kansas all the way through the Great Lakes and then across the southeastern part of the United States. Some isolated storms across the northeast, but nothing too crazy to worry about just yet. So let's go over to weather.com and get a little brief report here. Severe thunderstorms are producing widespread damaging winds in the Midwest today. Areas from Iowa to northern Illinois and far southern Wisconsin are at most risk, or they were at the time. And let's see if Jesse is There's Richard in there too. Richard, how you doing? Go feed those horses. They're hungry. Good to see you out there from New Mexico. Jesse, can you report how far away were you, and did you have to experience any damage from this? As I read along here, severe thunderstorms producing widespread winds across parts of the Midwest today as a derecho races eastward. And we've had a couple of derechos. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and put out a grand solar minimum challenge out there. I would like to know from some of you researchers out there, can you tell me how many derechos have been reported in 2020? And is it a record? Because of all the years that I've covered weather and followed weather, I've never heard the term derecho as much as I've heard it this year. That's good to hear, Jesse. Glad that you were not in harm's way. Hopefully it stays that way for you. The complex of storms has knocked out power and caused tree damage from around Omaha, Nebraska to central Iowa. Winds gusted up to 112 miles per hour in Midway, Iowa, and up to 85 miles an hour near Moline, Illinois, as these storms move through. The severe thunderstorms are expected to track eastward into northern Illinois, far southern Wisconsin, northern Indiana, and southwestern Michigan through the afternoon and into the early evening hours tonight. Tree damage, power outages, and some structural damage will occur along the path of these thunderstorms. I can tell you just from watching the coverage earlier, especially in Iowa, we saw quite a bit of roof damage from this. So these straight line winds, 100 miles an hour, were something else. Severe thunderstorm watch is in effect till, well, they just now expired here in parts of Iowa, Wisconsin, northern Illinois. That was up till 7 p.m. Severe thunderstorm watch is valid until midnight for parts of Indiana, northwestern Ohio, and southwestern Michigan as well. So if you live up north, Toledo, Fort Wayne, parts of Michigan as well, the more severe part of these storms are up north. And as you all know, we get closer to sunset, we lose a lot of energy from the sun, and these storms will weaken. Now down in the southwest, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, also expecting these storms, but not as intense as we've seen in the north part. Severe thunderstorm watch is in effect till 10 p.m. Central Time for portions of eastern Missouri and central Illinois. A severe thunderstorm watch is in effect till 7 p.m. That is now expired for eastern Wisconsin and upper Michigan, but we will continue to monitor to see if we will get any more. Now, here is the storm timing. Milwaukee, storming now as we speak. Should clear up around 9 o'clock. Chicago getting through it right now as we speak. They're about done. And Peoria, Illinois is going to see an off and on thunderstorms as we head through the evening into the early morning hours. Same with South Bend, Indiana. And Indianapolis, once we get past that line of storms, you're just going to be cloudy tonight. So, again, a burst of storm activity here in the Midwest and the Great Lakes area. Thankfully, no fatalities have been reported from this particular line of storms, but I can tell you right now, there is tons of roof damage across Iowa for sure, and I'm sure we'll have more to report on the storm damage as we go through the evening and into tomorrow as well. Take a look at GFS update now. This is going to start tomorrow, August 11th. More rain and showers to the same area that we just went through, and expecting showers to continue to be off and on for the Midwest. Some high pressure slips into the Great Plains states, the Northern Plains states, I should say, and the Great Lakes, bringing showers and storms to the northeast, all the way to the Tennessee Valley into the panhandle of Florida. There is system number 1 in the Eastern Pacific. There's 2 of them that we have showing up. And right now, I don't think these are going to be much of a threat. As we move through Wednesday into Thursday, more storms for the mid-Atlantic states onto the East Coast and the southeast of the United States. High pressure retreats back to Canada as more storms come across Missouri, Iowa, and Nebraska on Friday at the end of this week. More of a stormy pattern on the East Coast and then heading into the Northeast and the mid-Atlantic states. By Saturday, temperatures also will begin to cool off in the Northeast. We've seen some pretty hot temperatures. Tomorrow, we are going to be at 92. That's very hot for this region this time of the year. Heat advisories are in effect once again. And I said this all winter, spring, and this is one thing I'm kind of emphasized about this particular summer, it's going to be a short and hot summer. And it's been a hot summer. We've had several heat advisories, several days in the 90s, and just the heat and humidity up here in the upstate New York region has just been wow compared to years before this. But there is indications on GFS, and I will show you here soon. There's, by the way, in the Eastern Pacific, there's system numbers away. And I'll show you evidence to where I think that we will see some big relief here by the end of August. Look at that high pressure system in Canada that's moving across the Great Lakes. That's sticking around. And of course, with the rain, that helps with the cooling. There's system number 3 in the Eastern Pacific, by the way, by the end of August. So we'll see 3 Eastern Pacific storms. And right now, as at this moment, the system that is being tracked, if I'm not mistaken, I believe if you look down here in this far bottom corner here, that might be our low pressure system. And you're like, well, what low pressure system you're talking about? This is Sunday, August 16th. So let's check it out and see if it is. No, I guess not. It's possible it could be. But this system right now is not very favorable to make it to land. I don't even know if it's going to be a named storm. Last time we checked, there was a 0% chance of formation. It has increased a little bit. Let's check it out. Thanks to Mike's weather page for providing all these handy dandy little maps. Yeah, so now this has a 60% chance of development for the next 48 hours and the next 5 days as well. So this is a slow moving storm. We'll take its sweet little time. It's a lot slower than what we saw with Isa East, which was 40 miles an hour by the time it got to the northeast. Now, this storm here is rolling at about 10 to 15 miles per hour across the tropical Atlantic. It says here that conditions are forecast to become less conducive for development by the end of the week. And if you look at the GFS, so the end of the week, this is Sunday. That might be it down there, guys, where I got the blue arrow right down here in the corner. According to GFS, this thing is going to fizzle out, and this right here is high pressure. So it'll probably get caught up in that high pressure and then curve out to sea again. So that was the one storm. Even though it has a 60% chance of formation, it doesn't look like it's going to be able to hold it together. But there's Sunday. And like I said, I was going backwards to see if we have anything coming up in the Atlantic Basin, and we don't. Nothing in the Gulf. Just lots of rainy patterns and high pressure that's trying to basically intrude on our summer. Let's check out the temperatures. I know we saw these on Saturday. Summertime, summertime, summertime for the rest of this week, no doubt. Going all the way through. This is Thursday. There's your highs. And then Friday, there's your highs. We're pretty warm everywhere. Starting to see some 70s pop up in the mid-Atlantic areas in the northern plains, Great Lakes area in the northwest, but hot, hot, hot. Arizona, whew, southwest. So I got a comment from a subscriber yesterday who was watching, and I made a snarky remark about why they're surprised that it's dry and hot in Phoenix, Arizona. My mistake. A subscriber properly informed me that this is the monsoon season right now, and they're not seeing as much rain. So that would make sense why they are speculating and wondering why this is an unusual hot and dry summer, considering they're in their monsoon rain season and they're not getting the rain. So I wanted to put that out there to correct why it's not always hot and dry in Phoenix, Arizona. But anyway, so here we are on Friday. High temperatures, pretty hot across the United States. Saturday, things start to ease up a little bit around the Great Lakes and in the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic states especially. Still pretty hot across the South and the Central Plains as well. The Midwest, well, that's just typical summer weather for you out there in Kentucky and Ohio. And as we get through Sunday, the weekend of the 16th, I mean, look at these high temperatures. My gosh, 114 degrees in Southern California, 116 near Death Valley. Insane, guys. That's some heat. It's that dry heat, too. And then high temperatures starting on Monday, August 17th. A different look. When you compare to what we're seeing right now, we've got more 60s and 70s across the United States than we do right now for sure. Those are daytime highs. Tuesday gets a little bit cooler in a little bit bigger part of the country, the Midwest, the Northern Plains, the Great Lakes, and the Northeast. You can see where that line and that high pressure that's coming down from right around this region here, look how sharply cooler it is. To me, for August 18th, high temperatures in parts of New York, 78 degrees, 72 in Toledo, 71 near South Bend, Indiana, 71 near Detroit, 70 for a daytime high on August 18th in parts of Iowa. It ain't that time of the year yet, folks. Nighttime lows, we're also starting to see some 40s creeping in to the Great Lakes and the Northeast part. There's 30s lurking in Canada right now for nighttime lows. So daytime highs by the 19th, not much better. Look at that. 60s widespread across Wisconsin, widespread across Michigan, and coming to a northeastern state near you by middle of next week. So there's your cooling, in my opinion. The first indication that this short, hot summer might be coming to a close for folks in the Great Lakes, Northern Plains, and the Northeast. Look at that. Overnight lows getting in the 40s and 50s. Daytime highs on the 20. Again, you can't really hold this forecast. This is for the 21st of August, but it's amazing to me that this is showing daytime highs of 55 degrees in Pennsylvania. And the reason why, and also southern part of New York, 63 in Albany. It's going to be in the 50s in the Hudson Valley. There's a lot of rain also that's going to be in that area too at this time during this period of time. So again, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, Northeast, all seeing unseasonably cooler temperatures, about 10 degrees below average. The nighttime lows are just amazing. I mean, this is good sleeping weather right here. If you live in the Midwest, Northeast, even the Mid-Atlantic states, this is good sleeping. And let's not forget our friends in the Northwest. Oregon and Washington and parts of Northern California. Also, Montana starting to cool down a little bit. So we get to the end of August. Whoa, I just saw, look at that. In Canada, near Alberta, BC, temperatures, overnight lows, 35 degrees. The blue is starting to show up once again. Now, remember, we had blue in June and then early July. We didn't see it much for the rest of July, and we haven't seen it yet in August. So we finally start to see a speckle of blue show up by the end of August. That's overnight lows, though, all right? There's your daytime highs on Saturday, August 22nd. 56 degrees in the capital region. 58 degrees in New Hampshire. Vermont also seeing similar high temperatures. Hot in the south, hot in the central plain states. Still like fall type weather for Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and the Northeast. Some normality looks like it's returning to the Northeast and the Ohio Valley by the end of the month, but a preview of fall early, a very small sample size of it. And by the time we get to this map here ending, this is right before daytime highs. These are morning temperatures across the United States on the end of August. But if you told me that I was going to wake up on August 26th, living in Ohio, midday temperatures around 70 degrees, I'll take that for August 26th. These are the dog days of summer, folks. Let's take a look at our ocean temperatures as well, as we are continuing to track La Nina conditions, and they are plummeting below the threshold that we need for the next 3 months. Right now it's at 0.476, oh so close to that 0.5. Now let's take a look at the El Nino 1-2 region, which that's also something, and that is also plunging below the 2.0, below baseline. So we are continuing the La Nina watch. It's almost right on schedule, and this is, like, we've been talking about this since last year, and a lot of people like Scott Rose out of Michigan, he was one of the first people that was helping me understand when this La Nina was going to develop, if it did develop, and his calculations are absolutely spot on correct. All right, that's going to do it for me today on a Grand Solar Minimum News Update. Mari, would you like to say hi to our lovely folks in the chat before we take off for the night?
It's really good to see everyone in the chat. Hello to Dorothy and Matt and Jesse and Pete and Knife Collector. I'm glad Jesse's okay. Jerome, Joseph, a lot of good people in the chat talking about some random things. I was just talking about how weird the pop-up storms have been. We actually got hit twice. Two little
formed right
storms.
over us.
I dragged my hose out. I'm trying to spray down our freshly laid grass seed from where we had the sewer line replaced, and it was sunny with partially clouds, and it just came out of nowhere, didn't it, Jake? It just started raining. We're like, oh.
It's done that twice today, and actually we had a pretty nasty storm form right over us. The lightning, two lightning strikes probably within 2 miles.
And the report said that there was going to be 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts with that. And man, we just had that hurricane pass through New York recently. To me, the winds were insane out of nowhere. It was weird. We heard a huge crack of lightning. It was like the storm formed right above us. As usually you see clouds rolling in, it gets dark subtly, whatever, but it's light and just crack and boom, it's there. Weird stuff. Fun times, never boring, Jake.
No, interesting day across the United States. Storms here in our backyard. We've had hurricane coverage. We've had aftershocks of earthquakes out here. I mean, it's been kind of busy here lately.
Oh, Sue Hayes says she's been lurking. Hello, Sue. How are you?
Good to see.
And then the other thing, I posted the John Casey upheaval link in the chat.
Yep.
Around that time. Also, if you're questioning what the link was before I did that, I was only on my phone, and the easiest link for me to get at the time was the Amazon store link, which is just a compilation of useful GSM things. There's it's organized by different things. There's proper books, there's GSM books, and then other stuff. But that was what the first link was, in case anyone was wondering what in the world I'm posting. So that's all I got, Jake.
Well, thank you very much, Mari. Appreciate that. And everybody, thanks again for tuning into the Grand Solar Minimum channel for a GSM news update. If there's any breaking news, we'll be on tomorrow. But look for us again for sure by Wednesday. But there's a good chance you could see us tomorrow. Actually, just to beat the heat, we might as well do a show. There's AC in the office, so we could always do that. So until then, folks, have a safe evening, and we will talk soon. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.